All right, hello, and welcome to another Courier Live. I'm very excited about this one because I finally have it set up to where I can bring in remote people. And today we have one of our fine uh, software engineers, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm a software engineer at Courier. Almost been there a year now, actually. I think next week is my 1 year anniversary, so that's pretty exciting for me. Um, and I've been kind of hanging out and doing a bunch of learning about a bunch of notifications between push notifications, email, Slack, Messenger, and it's pretty crazy to think about all the different notification platforms we have these days. So
Well,
it's
I mean,
fun.
I guess it's lucky that everyone can just use one platform to hit them all with Courier.
Exactly,
Uh,
like having to integrate each one separately while building for sure hasn't been the most fun thing, but after we make it so easy, you can kind of get hit the ground running.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to be focusing on sending messages over Slack. And we're going to be using one of our new blocks, which is part of our designer, and it was actually created by Riley here. So she's going to help us create a notification. And so to send a notification through Slack, you need something to trigger the message. And so today we're going to write a Slack/ command. So I'm sure a lot of people have probably used them, but we're going to write one that interacts with the BART API. So for those of you who live out in San Francisco, I think you're all familiar with the BART. And they do have an API that allows you to pull the estimated departure times. And so we're going to use that. So we're going to allow people to do /BART times, give it a station and an optional direction, and pull back those estimated wait times. So like maybe you're about to leave the office, and before you do, you run this command and see, when's the next train? If it's coming in 20 minutes, can you get to the station in time? If it's coming in, 52 minutes, maybe you can wait a little bit longer before you leave the office. So that's what we're going to be working on. And I have a lot of the application that actually receives the Slack/ command created. So this application is going to accept a post from Slack, parse the information, and then send it on to Courier for Courier to actually respond. So let's take a look at what that's made up of. And so to do that, I've hosted it in Glitch. So let me switch our view here. So Courier does have a team in Glitch. So if you just go to glitch.com/@courier, you can see all of our examples that we're putting up there. I'm slowly putting ones up there as I get them created. So we have our pigeon weather that we've done live before. I'm working on one for Django, which is kind of cool because it's in Python. And then here we've got the one that I've been working on, which is our Courier Slack/BART command. And so we'll go ahead and go into it. And I'm just going to go right into Edit Project. And we wait for it to load. And so I have kind of the beginnings of a README here that walk through what this is going to, how to use this. So you can see it's a Slack/ command for getting the estimated departure times, and it's simply you just type /BART times, give it a station and a direction, and the station is the station abbreviation. Keeping it really simple for right now. I didn't want to have to do like translations between the abbreviation and the name. There's some cool things that you can do where you can return a drop-down list. So if you just did /BART times, you could be presented with a drop-down list of all of the different stations, which would make it easier for people to use. Maybe we'll make that change in the future. And then you can see that there's an optional parameter for specifying northbound or southbound. And so this all is part of that BART API that we'll go into. If you want to create your own, you can just remix it from this page. And then we've got some notes about some environment variables that we set up. So it's always a good idea to use an environment variable for your Courier auth token and any API keys. So we got a BART API key that you can apply and get a free one, and then the Slack signing signature, which we'll talk about soon. And then, if you don't have a Courier account, feel free to sign up down here at the bottom. So like I said, this is a simple Node Express app, right? I think we've all created those. Are we using Express, Riley?
We're not using Express. We're using serverless on our backend, and you don't necessarily need to use any type of router in the back end, but we do use Koa to kind of help create one function and do routing for us. So Koa is kind of like the spiritual successor for Express. It's built mostly around like async and await, whereas Express is more kind of callback focused.
I've in like the many years that I've been using Node, I don't think I've used anything other than Express. I know that there's things out there like Happy and Koa. I first heard about that whenever I came to Courier. But like I've worked with some of the maintainers of Express, and then even our CEO wrote the cores library for Express. So a lot of Express going on.
I mean, if it's not broke, why anything else? I mean, Express works great, and it powers tons and tons of web applications, on the internet. So
yeah,
that's when you want to get geeky. You can start playing with Koa or Happy or something like that.
Yeah. So we'll kind of dig into it. This is a very simple Express app. So we've created an app. We have it running here. I think it's running on port 300, just kind of like the basic default. But what we're looking at is this / command. And so this is what we're going to need to feed our Slack app. That we'll walk through that in a minute. And to do that, we also are using this verify Slack signature middleware. So it's very good practice whenever you're receiving things from Slack to make sure that they come from Slack. And to do that, and I can just kind of pop into our this middleware here, is there's a number of headers that come over. So the Slack signature, there's the timestamp, and you want to use all of this to build a signature yourself based on the payload of the body, I guess, of the request, and make sure that those match. And if they fail, then you want to send a 400 because it could be somebody trying to spoof your system. This is a very simple application that it probably doesn't need to be too secure, but I find it very easy just to throw in a middleware like this and make sure that it's actually Slack sending it to us. And so by sticking that in there, before we go into the command route, then it's just going to do that check and then return if anything bad happens. But the bulk of what we're doing is inside this command route, and that's underneath the routes folder. And so we can see all we're doing is we're accepting a post. And so it's going to be whatever our glitch URL is with / command, and that's going to be an endpoint that we can post to. And so you can see I have a nice little link here to what comes back in this body, but we are interested in with the text, and so that is what is written after the / command. So after you type /BART -times, everything comes back in the text. And then I'm pulling out the channel ID, which I'm renaming as channel. So that is the channel that the / command was executed in. This is going to be important down the line. And then lastly, there's a response URL. Whenever you're working with Slack commands, there is a URL that you can post to send the response message. And we're going to use that in our call to Courier. So what I've done is, because we have a simple command where it's the station and then the direction, I'm just splitting the text and I'm pulling out those different variables. And then right away, what I want to do is I want to send back a response because we have a 3-second window to respond to Slack commands. And if not, then it will try sending the post again. And so I just go ahead and send back a 200, set the response type in channel. That allows you to see the Slack command echoed back into the channel. And then we'll move on with actually sending the information to Courier so it can handle sending the response. Have you ever created a Slack slash command, Riley?
Yeah, I created a slash command at my old job, and it was called Bad Dog. We had dogs in our office, and some dogs would pee on the carpet, and we had a new CEO who was threatening to get rid of our dogs, and I was trying to come up with a way to say, hey, let's find a way to aggregate the information about what dogs are good and what dogs are bad, because we don't want the bad dogs to ruin it for the good dogs. It was like you could do like slash bad dog and then dog name and then what the dog did that was bad, and it would be anonymous. So you'd be like bad dog Tilly peed on the carpet, and then you'd have information about it, and people wouldn't feel bad about ratting on someone's dog, and you'd have all the information, and then you could find out who the bad dog was, and then that person could then work on making their dog better such that we could keep dogs in their office.
I would just say get rid of the carpet, because who has carpet?
I mean, but then you pee on the wood, and then the wood gets gross. So it's like, I don't know. And I never made it to production, but it was like a fun idea of being able to, get information about whether or not people like the dogs or they don't like the dogs.
So we'll build our profile object that we'll send the Courier, and there's different ways of sending Slack messages using Courier, and it all depends on how you set up this profile. And so a lot of times you're sending over a channel and an access code, or a user ID and an access code, depending if you're sending to a channel or to a user via DM. But we also have the ability to respond to incoming webhooks, and that's kind of what this scroll back up here, what this response URL is. And so we can set up a Slack profile that involves the incoming webhook and just pass it that response URL. And that's how we're going to do it. So that's going to be part of what we send into Courier. But we also need the data that we're going to send along with it. So this is where we can access the BART API. And so I'm doing some weird things here with the direction, because I decided I wanted to be able to send it in as in or north or northbound, but like what the API wants is that in. And so I'm just doing a little check to see if the direction is sent in, and if it is, just grab the first character and set it to lowercase. And then we can do a call to the BART data. And what I did was I wrapped that API, or that REST API call, into a little library for get BART etd. And so that's just using it's an async call that's using Axios to make that call and return it. So I'm actually pulling the data out, and then I'm just going through and I'm grabbing the information that I want, making sure I know how the data is going to look, and it's in a way that makes sense to us. One of the things is, like, it sends back an array of stations, but you specify a station, and so I just pulled out the first one, so that way we don't have to worry about accessing one item of the array later on in Courier. And so that's just a helpful little function that I created that we could use inside the command. And so we get all that data. It comes back as BART data. I do some console logs. One thing that's really great about Glitch is you have access to all of these console logs. So if you just go under Tools and Logs, you can see all of the logs. And sometimes there's errors that come on because it's actually re-executing as you're typing. And so sometimes it can't do that. And so here is the Courier call, and we are using the Courier SDK. Yeah, sure, SDK for Node. And so up here, we grab the Courier client from try Courier, and then we can use the send command here. And we send it in some information. So we're sending in an event ID. This can be the ID of the notification. But what I like to do is put a string in there that I later map to the notification ID. I think this makes my code look a little bit cleaner. And then it also gives whoever is creating the courier notification the ability to create a different notification and then switch that mapping whenever they're ready. So no code changes needed to change which notification this goes to. I don't know. Do you have an opinion on this? How do you normally do it, Riley?
I normally just use the ID that gets created with the notification, but I'm not, building little apps like this a lot. I imagine if I was, it would be nice to have more human readable event IDs because it's, if it's just like a UUID or something like that, it's hard to kind of keep track of.
Yeah.
And if you're building like an application using Courier, it might be nice to like organize them in such a way that it's like, transactional / order place, transactional / this, or promotional / this, and kind of organize them in an intelligent way.
Yeah, I like that. For the recipient ID, it doesn't really matter what we put in this case because we're going to be inlining the profile data, but you still need one. And so this is where I just took the channel name and put that in because that is a unique ID for the channel. And so it kind of fits all of our requirements for what a recipient ID should be. We're giving it the profile, and then I'm spreading the BART data across the data inside the data. And then one last thing that I'm doing, because of the way the webhook response works, is I'm doing an override and passing in the response type into the body. And so what overrides do is it allows you to access at kind of a lower level the what we actually send to the Slack API. So I can go into the body and say response type and channel, and then that will get merged into what Courier actually sends to Slack at time of send. And so that's really powerful if you want to do some things that maybe we don't natively support. So we kind of give you that access hatch just to keep things running. So that call gets made, and we return a message ID, and all I do is console log it out. There's not a lot that I do with that right now, but we did just release some new APIs to check the status of messages, whether they've been delivered, whether they've been opened, and then I think you can even pull back history information about it now too. We have a new history route. And so this is basically all it takes to receive the Slack / command and send the information into Courier. And so let's try it out. But first, let's talk about what needs to be done on the Slack app side. And so if you go to your apps, so if you haven't created an app or you have one that you would like to add this to, you just have to go to api.slack.com/apps, and that will show you all of your apps. So if you're doing this for the first time, you can create a new app, clicking Create New App, or you could select one of the other ones. And so I have a BART bot app that I made for this case, and so we'll go into it. And if we scroll down, you can see that there's this signing secret right here. And so earlier I talked about one of the environment variables that we need is the signing secret. That's where you get this. You can add that to your .m file. And this is going to be used in the verification. So that's part of what's needed to verify that requests are coming from Slack. And the other thing that we need to do is go into /commands. And then we can add a / command. So I've already added this one for /BART times. We'll go in here to the edit. And so I gave it a command. So it's something / something. You give it the request URL. And so here is the endpoint for the glitch app that we're working with. And we just put /command on the end so it hits that route. Give it a short description, some hint usage, and you can kind of see what it's going to look like. And I'm going to hit cancel. But that's all you need to do to set up a Slack app to use a / command. If you are creating it for the first time, it's going to ask you to install the app, and it's going to automatically add the appropriate permission. So now, and as it loads, now it has bot token scopes for commands. And now we can go into Slack and kind of see what happens. That's Courier. Let's go to Slack. So in the Slack channel, I'm going to just type slash BART. You can see it pop up there with our nice little hints. And I'm going to type in POWL for the PAL station. I think that one's the closest one to the Courier office. I feel like it's been forever since I've been out to San Francisco because of the world we live in.
Yeah, I wonder if it's still there.
I'm
in Minnesota, so I don't know what's going on there anymore.
For those of you who don't know, I live in New York City, so I go out to San Francisco every so often. Well, that's how it used to be. And then I'm going to just select N for north. So I'm going to get all of the departure times for PAL station going north. And as you can see, not a lot happened. Because we returned in channel, we have our command echoed back to us. If you go over to the glitch app and you look at the logs, you can see that things happened. So here's the input that we got. Here's the BART data that came back and the message ID. So it definitely got sent to Courier. That's good news. And let's go into Courier. We're ready to go into Courier. So this is what it looks like when you log into Courier. It takes you to our metrics page. I probably have a lot of undeliverable things that maybe I just need to reload it. But we'll go into the logs and we can see where this came in. And so let's look at the logs. And 52 seconds ago, we have a notification with the event Slack/BART ETD with the recipient of the channel, and it was undelivered. So we can go in and look at this, and we can see a number of things. So here's that message ID that we saw in the logs. We can see everything that got passed in to this command. So here's all of the data. Here's our event name, our override, and our profile. So that's great.
Do you have to pay for an account, or do you just go to BART's website and register to get an API key?
Oh yeah, you just go over and register. I have a link in the README, but this is kind of what the API looks like. And if you go back over to Overview, there's this API validation key. You just fill out this form. They will immediately give you a key, but it takes about an hour for it to start working. So make sure you do that ahead of time.
Do they have any restrictions on the keys that you get for not for learning purposes or business purposes or anything, or can you use it for anything?
There is the license agreement. I think for our purposes, it's fine. It's interesting. I didn't see a lot of stuff about like throttling and things like that. So I think it's just kind of be on your best behavior.
Yeah, I was just curious. I know that I've used a bunch of apps that will tell me this information, but I never really thought about like at what point do you go from just playing around with an app to actually, making money off of it. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't make money off of any of these apps. So
probably a paycheck.
Oh well, yes, that of course. Wait, paycheck? Okay, so this is the data that we have to work with, but you can see that it's not delivered, and that reason being that there's no notification mapped to the Slack/BART ETD event. So to do that, we actually have to have a notification. So let's go ahead and create a notification. So we'll go over to our designer, and we'll start a new notification. So I'm going to just hit Create Notification. You can see my other demos that's hanging out there. And I'm going to start by giving it a name, and I'm going to call it our Slack/BART .etd. And this can be whatever name you want. So whatever helps you organize it. We even have tags that you can use to further organize it. And so we create that. And then the next thing we want to do is add our channels. So I've said this before, we consider Slack a direct message, but to be able to get some of these advanced features like using the JSONnet block that we're going to use and things, it's better to just add the channel directly. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So you'll notice that all of these integrations have this little plug. This means that the provider has not been installed. But I have used Slack so much that it is installed. And you can install it by going to the Integrations tab. And so this is what our designer looks like for creating your Slack message. So what do you think? Let's do a kind of an easy, quick message, and then we'll go get it mapped. So I'm going to add just a plain text block, and I'm going to do. So we have. What were some of those top level things that came in? It was, so we have a date, we have a time, and we have a station, and it has a name. So let's do, I'm going to do a variable here, and I'm going to do station.name, and make that bold. And then I want to put the time in there because I think time works, but like the day, like it's obviously the day that you ran the thing, so we'll just kind of ignore that. And so that is just time. And so then we'll put in a variable for, so I guess I have the estimated departure times for time. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight this and make this part not bold. There. Cool. And so we have a very basic notification. And we do have it is in a draft. So we haven't published a change, but it is saved. So we should be able to go back to our logs. And we'll go back to that same log that we were just in, and then we'll map there. So down here in the not delivered, we have no notification map to event. And so we can just go ahead and click map to notification, and then that will prompt us for the notification, and we can select this /BART etd and save. And if we go back to the log, we'll do one more thing that will help us while we're creating this app. Will this work? If not, we'll send another one. It's fine. What I want to do is I want to hit this save as test event because all of this data came in and we're going to use it in our building process. And if we save it as a test event, we'll be able to preview the notification as we go along. And by preview, I mean we'll be able to see the JSON, the Block Kit blocks that it creates.
I think you're gonna have to send another event because it says unknown notification at the top.
Okay.
And that's an indicator that it doesn't know the notification.
That's okay. I'll go right back over here and I'll copy this.
Yeah.
And we'll run that again. And we'll go back over to Courier and refresh the logs. And so now it's different. So it's still undelivered, but it's undeliverable. And we go in and look. So now we have the event we received. It's now being mapped. So it's getting mapped to this notification ID. And then it's undeliverable because the notification hasn't been published. So we did leave it in draft whenever we came back over here, so that's fine. Just remember, you always need to publish or your changes won't be made. So now we should be able to hit save as a test event, and I think it did it, right? It briefly said saving.
Yeah.
And I'll close that and I'll go back into our notification. And
There's also a little link to the notification in that modal too.
oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Click it. Okay. And so if we went to preview right now, we can see what it actually sent, or the blocks that it created. And we only have one Block Kit block, which is a section block with markdown text. And so you can see that it built that. And what's something that's cool is we can actually click this link and see it in the Slack Block Kit builder. So right now our notification will look like this. So we've got Pal Street in bold, and then estimated departure times 4, and it filled in our variable. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. You found that little link where you can actually put like that stringified JSON in the URL and then pass it over here. It's pretty really in the feature.
Yeah. I'm happy that we could do it. Yeah, it's going to be so helpful as we continue to build this out. But you can also go directly to that Block Kit builder. So this is a tool that Slack has. And this is kind of a way to show different things. So you have different templates that you can open up. And you can see what that Block Kit JSON looks like. So if you need inspiration, or you kind of want to copy, like, oh, I like the way that these fields are, how did they do that? You can see it. So that's the same app that's doing the preview for us. But it's kind of... It's the app that this is built off of. And you can even do like, oh, I want to add a plain text. And so that gets added to the bottom. Let's make a so you can kind of almost drag and drop interface, build out the things. But this is a great way to kind of prototype what you want your message to look like using their blocks. And kind of see what it looks like. I took a look at the data that we were coming back, and I kind of came up with some ideas. And so here's kind of some things that I was working on. So you can see that we've got similar things here. I guess I put ship it station at the end. I like that. But that's similar to what we just did. But then we get all of the information back about all of the stations. Sorry, not all of the stations. It's all of the, I guess it's the lines or the destinations. And so Antioch has 2 pieces of information that comes back. And so like in 21 minutes and 51 minutes, and I was kind of playing around with what things should look like. And so like there's one where you can have like an image on the side, and I'm using kind of a dummy image generator online to pull that back. And then I kind of was playing around with just doing a context to make it really small. But I think these are some of the things that we could make it look like. But how do we do that? So you notice that we had just this regular text block, and we have some basic blocks where you can pull in, an image, you can pull in an action, which is like a button. You can do a divider block, you can do a markdown block, quote text, and then we have this JSonnet block. So
What is Sonnet?
JSonnet block. Hey Riley, do you want to tell us a little bit about the JSonnet block?
Yeah. So you want to jump over to the JSonnet website quick?
Yeah.
So Slack, when we send data to Slack, we're sending a JSON, like an array of blocks. So we just saw the Block Kit builder. But one thing is that we can't build a block for everything. I mean, hopefully someday we will have a Courier block for everything. But in the meantime, we want to make sure people have extreme flexibility. So JSON is really just like a JSON templating tool where you basically, it outputs JSON. So like a handlebars template might, create HTML. This is basically made specifically for JSON. So it really gives you neat ways to build complex JSON from other JSON. So it's like JSON plus JSONnet equals JSON. So in our use case, we could basically use a JSONnet block to create a template to create any type of Slack block that we could possibly imagine. And you can kind of see by looking at some of the examples here that we basically have kind of JavaScript-y, Python-y type of syntax in each property, between like loops, conditionals, calculations. There's a lot of really fun stuff that we can do with JSONnet. So the flexibility is really amazing.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool because the other language that I program with, I do a lot of JavaScript, and then I've been doing a little bit of Python. I did it a long time ago, and I'm just now picking it back up. But they have these array and object comprehensions, and that's essentially how you loop through arrays. And it's kind of interesting because the iterator or the for piece comes last, and so it's like the body and then the last part. And so I think a lot of what we're going to be doing today is going to be using these array comprehensions, because we're going to be we're going to take in the JSON that's passed over in the data, and we're going to loop over it and output an array of blocks. Yes. So let's go over and add a JSON block. Actually, I'm going to do this station because I like that. So we'll go ahead and add the JSONnet block. And when we click this, we have a simple example. And then we created some templates. So you've got like text with a button, text with an image that builds a section, and different things like that. And I've done this recently with a bunch of Pokemon. I'm just going to make sure I remember how to do it. So I'm just going to delete all of this. And we have all of our data in our test case. Can we see that? If we go back over to preview, if we go to manage, okay.
You hit preview, manage test event will tell you the data,
Yeah. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that out.
You might want to rename the test event too, just saying like...
that's probably a good idea.
We can rename just because if you have a lot of test events, we're saving them as a message ID, so it might make sense to kind of give it more of a human readable name, being like first test on Powell Street or Powell Street test is probably a good example.
Cool.
Yeah, so basically with the test events, we can create a whole bunch of different situations. So maybe we want to create a test event of the API being down or responding in a bad way, and we can basically handle that in a little more intelligent way instead of just focusing on the happy path of our test events.
Yeah, and that kind of saves you from having to go back into Slack and doing like /this and hit enter and /this and run it again. Because we do give away 10,000 messages a month, but if you're building this for production and you're sending over 10,000, then there becomes a cost associated with it. Mm-hmm. So let's look at, so we would want to loop over these ETDs.
Was that estimated time for delivery?
Departure, I think.
Oh. Just got like Grubhub on my mind.
Oh my gosh, is it time to eat already? All right. So let's go over and let's do something very simple in a loop. And so we will go into our JSONnet and we'll do an array comprehension for a section block. And that is, I have already forgotten. Luckily, we have this to help us. So I'm going to copy this. Not this one. this one. This is part of the reason I did this ahead of time. So I don't have to type some of these things. And so this is 4, and we need to grab from the data, and so that's data. And then in a string, we need to put the path to it, correct?
Yeah.
And we just looked at that, and it is station.etd. Yeah, I think that's it. For station.etd. And this is actually for, say, etd in station.etd, and then we end the thing. And now we should be able to use this etd variable to grab out the destination. So we can do, I'm going to keep okay, so because it's very Python-like, I can do a string with a %s, and then do %, and I can do etd dot destination.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that. So that's like alternative to just doing plus.
Yeah, instead of like breaking it up into the different strings and concatenating them together, you can kind of put like a format string in there and then do that. And if you had multiple s's, you could do % and then in parens, you can do a list of things and it will go kind of in order.
Magic. That's cool.
Magic. Okay. So now let's see if this produces anything. Oh, so right now we have all of our destinations coming out. And if we wanted to go ahead and look at it in Block Kit Builder, give it a second to load. There's a lot of things happening on my computer, so. And so now we've got all of this.
Fancy.
That's cool. And we want to put in, so we're going to be outputting multiple blocks. Let me see. Okay, so we'll go back here. Because one thing that we want to be able to do is put dividers in between these. And so we are going to have another one of these. I'm like, can we put like kind of objects back to back and it will work? I've not tried that. So we'll do another block, and the type is going to be divider.
So the for loop would create 2 objects instead of 1?
That's what I'm thinking as part of the, I mean, that's my hope.
I don't know.
Because otherwise we have to figure out a way to like join it all back together or concatenate them. Because there's still even more stuff that we need to put in there. Because like the divider is going to be the last thing.
Yeah, you could also put the divider in the markdown, couldn't you?
Well, but like we want a divider after each one of these sections that we're outputting. I know, like we could put it up here, but this is like at the end of like Antioch, and so like it would be Antioch, and then I guess looking at it, this example here. So there's no divider in between these, but there would be this, and then a couple of these sections, and then a divider, and then it starts over. So yeah, like I'm missing the divider that's above this, and we could probably use the divider block or another JSONnet block that outputs just a divider because it's not part of the loop. Okay, well we can see. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it did not like that. Okay, I gotta think. Python. How do we do this? Because we could. Oh well. So if we. So we could do an array of arrays, and then do a comprehension on that. To flatten it. So another thing that's going to be helpful is there's a standard library, and you can. There's like lots of functions that are built in. Unfortunately, I don't know all of these offhand. Like, I wonder if we could, if there's like a concat for arrays.
There are. You search for array. They have a bunch of array.
So that's for strings. String flatten arrays.
Wow.
Oh, I bet that's what we could do. So we could do on the outer, we can do a std.flatten array, and then we can do oh. Hold on, I got lost in my thought. Because we can definitely flatten the arrays. Flatten the array before we return it to the array comprehension. So let me see if this works. So if we did std dot, was it flatten or flatten array? Flatten arrays. I'm gonna copy that. So we did std.flatten arrays. Yeah, and then okay, and then we did this here, right? And then in that function, so we would create an array of objects. Oh, you know what? I think we would need to do that one level up. So our array comprehension would return an array of arrays, and then the last thing we do over the whole thing is we flatten it.
Okay, makes sense.
So let's take this. And that would go here. And this would go out. And so our array comprehension starts here on this first, and then it ends over here. And so what we're saying is we're creating an array for each ETD. We're creating an array of arrays for each ETD, and then we're flattening it. Will that work?
Oh my god.
Wait, did it work?
Yeah. I'm impressed.
And then there's the divider, and then there's the divider, and then there. Woo!
You get a divider, and you get a divider.
And you get a divider. But what's great is like now we can just keep creating these ones that go along with it. That's awesome. So I don't know. I'm going to hit the button.
I haven't dug too deep into all like that standard library, but that was really cool.
Ooh, look at that. We got dividers now. All right. So let's take a look. What do we need to do next? So we've got information for like inside. Let's look at the JSON object. So we've got estimates now. Fun. And so the estimates are going to be these sections that we have to put out. And so that means that we're going to do an array comprehension inside of that. So what we're going to need to do is before the divider, oh wait, that's the preview. So we're going to go back in here, and before the divider, we're going to actually need another block. We're going to need another section block. Type, and this is a section, and it is taking okay, so to get the 21 or to get the time, it's going to actually look like, and I'm going to take this, so we'll build it a little bit at a time here. And so we got the type section, and then we got text, and so markdown, we're using a clock. Okay, yeah, this is going to be fun. So what we I think what we should do, and to make this work, I need to make sure that's there. So I'm going to start putting in these %s's. So there's %s for the minutes, a %s for the platform, and I'm going for this whole thing here. I'm going to put a %s because there is a function that basically duplicates, or like, so what we could do is we can create an array of duplicate items and then join it. This is going to be crazy, but it's going to work. So we'll put that in, and then gosh, if the bike exists. All right, and then so we'll %, and the first thing we need is the minutes, and so that's going to be etd.estimate, or the estimates, etd estimate. Oh my gosh, we forgot the yeah, we forgot to do the array comprehension around it. Okay, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Because we need to loop over the etd, or the station.etd, sorry, etd.estimate, and then for each one of those, we need one of those. Which means that like this, we're gonna have to do like a std arrays that flatten around that too. So it's like flatten that and then flatten on the outside. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, totally.
So if we did, okay, so we do an array around this. Oh, I think we're missing a. Okay, so open curly, close curly. I think we need another close curly. For etd dot estimate. Oh wait, for estimate in etd dot estimate. So that's the array comprehension. And so this would be estimate dot minutes. And then the second %s is for the platform, so estimate dot platform. I think and I haven't tried it, but there is a way of creating functions, like inside this. I think I haven't tried it, but like it might get to the point where like using functions instead of like deeply nesting this into craziness would help. Yeah, platform, and then I am just going to put I'm just going to put train bike, because we'll do that stuff later. Okay, so we should have an issue with like arrays of arrays. Like, yeah, an array, but like I want to see if this works.
Uh-oh.
It does not. Okay.
I forgot my back.
Yeah, go ahead. Should have wrote. I don't want to take up all the time, especially since this isn't working. We might need to just do something very simple, not going one more level deep in interest of time, and then I can figure this out offline and post the solution. Yeah, because we've gotten to the point, so we're looping over everything that's in ETD, and in each ETD we have estimates inside there. Can I just do one? Let's see if we can simplify this out. So I'm going to take out this array comprehension. It could also be that I have these messed up. So let's do, so that's ETD dot estimate of 0. Let's see if we can get the first one of minutes instead of looping over those. And so then we're only returning one section. Okay, so we still got an issue with the rendering. So let's do, I'm going to put some spaces in here because it's getting kind of hard to read. Oops. Yeah. Okay, so here's this array. And those all line up now. And those all line up now. Got an extra space in there. Now, I think it's 4. And then, all right, so we are running flatten arrays over right, That's actually part of the array comprehension there. So we're doing array comprehension, and each time we iterate, we're returning an array, and then we're flattening that out. So either I don't know how to do a single thing in Python, which like of 0 platform. Okay, let's go even simpler. And we'll just try on getting the minutes out. Because this variable should still be good. So we're saying etd, and inside etd, there is estimate minutes. Did I put minutes? Yeah. Hey, there we go. All right, so it had to do with the other variables that we're using. And so we'll take a look at it.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. So now we have the minutes for each destination for the first one. Should we try to put another piece of information on there? What was the next thing? Let's try to do the image. So to do that, we are going to throw on an accessory. And so this is all part of the same section object. So this should work. We'll go back over. Whew. So inside here, we're going to want this accessory. And so it is an image. We're going to use the dummy image. It works good with 100 by 100. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be a %s, because that's going to be the color. And then the text is going to be another %s. And so we do %, and we do etd.estimate of 0 dot. So the first thing is the color, and it has a hashtag in it, which we're going to have to strip out. So it's going to be hex color. We'll worry about that in a moment. So hex color. And then the other thing that we need is etd.estimate of 0 dot direction. Let's put that north in there. Okay. And so for this, I think we're going to need one of those standard standard functions for like a substring. Is there substring? Substring returns a string that is the part of S that starts at an offset from and is length. If the string is shorter than from this length, the suffix starting at the position will be returned. Because we do this substring, and we give it that hex string, and because it's a hex, I think we can cheat and just hard code the number, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So here's the string. We want to start at 1, and the length is going to be 6. right, let's see if that works. Sorry, I did it really fast. It did not like it. Substring, estimate, hex color, 1 and 6. Well, let's just make sure that it responds with what we want first before we do the substring, I guess. So it doesn't like those variables. It doesn't like something. ETD. Okay, let's. We'll start slow. Yeah, interesting. Because we've got, okay, that there, type, image URL. That's got that there. Because it did not like whenever we added this. Okay. So what if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? We don't do this. Because is it actually a variable that it's having a problem with?
What was that? Was that a plus % sign?
I just did %. The plus is just to do a space here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, look at this. Comma. I bet you that's it. Yeah, I was missing a comma. So now we can, let's put this % sign back in and do %, etd dot estimate of 0 dot hex color, and see if it likes that. Hey, we're getting somewhere. All right, so all of our problems that we had was because of a missing comma. So now I can do % there, and I just need to make sure I do not delete this comma. Right there. And this was etd.estimate of 0 dot direction, and then go ahead and preview again. Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Okay, so it's this line. Like I'm doing this up here. Huh. Okay. Well, let's take that back out, and we'll just do the one. And like I said, I'll work on getting this written out, and I'll leave it with the recording of the video, because I don't want to. I mean, we've already gone over the time that I wanted. So let's see if we can use that standard library function just to do the substring, and then we'll call it. Because I do want to be able to send the message, so we can see that it actually works. So the string that we give is that. We start at 1, and the length is 6. And hopefully this works. And yeah, it did.
Cool.
Okay, so let's go ahead and see it in the Block Kit viewer. Block Kit viewer. Oh, look at that. We got nice little collars. Interesting that it shows the 100 by 100. We'll call that good for right now. So let's go ahead and publish our changes. Okay, so we have a notification that is now published. We can go back and look at it in design. And if we go back to Slack and we run our command again, we should see a response. Hey, look at that. So we have a response, and it's fitting back the first estimate for each destination, and it's giving us a little square for the color of the line that it's using. With a little bit more work, we can make it kind of look like this, so we could do some interesting things about displaying the number of train cars, the platform, etc. But I think for right now, getting this far, I think we're doing pretty good. I'll continue working on it to see if I can actually get its output looking like this, and stick it with the recording. But that is how you create a Slack slash command.
And use JSONnet.
And use JSONnet.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary. Anything else that you want to say before we wrap up?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's good. I was really impressed with some of the standard library, stuff that you were using. I never really thought about. I saw them, but I never really thought about using them very much.
Yeah, it's very. You have to put yourself in a Python mindset, I think. Yeah. But anybody out there who's watching, feel free to remix our glitch app and give it a try. You should just have to put in those environment variables and create a Courier account and start playing. But until then, I guess we'll see you next time, and we'll end the stream. Bye.